Hi, everyone. So we have attempted a live stream, and thanks to the eclipse tonight and the full moon in Taurus, we encountered some technical issues. So instead, we decided to record the video, and then we'll go ahead and upload it. And we'll be answering questions in the comment section. So any Q&A, any questions you guys have about the journey, any questions you have for Whitney, any questions you have about the upcoming program we're going to be discussing, anything at all, you can let us know in the comments below, and we will get to, we'll try to get to every single one. We're super excited to introduce Whitney to the channel, and I'm going to let her go ahead and talk about herself for a few minutes. And as some of you know, if you've been watching my recent videos, she will be the co-coach for the upcoming program in January. And we have talked a little bit about the program, but we'd like to talk a little bit more about it here. And again, we'll be answering any questions that you guys have.
Hi, I actually prepared absolutely nothing as far as who I am and what I do and all of that. So this is totally off the cuff, but I am Whitney, and I am an energetic healer. I am I'm what I term multi-passionate. I have a lot of interests in a lot of different things, and am devoted to continual self-evolvement because it makes me happy, and I love to learn things, and I love to share. And I honestly, if I had to say what my one gift is I am quite adept at finding the gift within all of the complications and the struggles, and actually like genuinely seeing the gift and helping other people see what benefit the trials and tribulations offer. So I'm really excited to be here. I've known Sarah for several years. We met in a writing group back in 2015, and we've both shifted and grown and changed through the years. We've stayed connected, and I'm really excited to be a part of this. I'm excited to be here. So thank y'all.
Yeah, we met back in 2016, was it?
It was 2015.
2015.
Yeah.
Okay, 2015, yeah. Right. Yeah, so we had a life-changing 30-day writing course, and that's part of what we're going to incorporate into the program because it was so instrumental for us in our growth and what we were moving through. And we're very excited to share that component with you guys. And it's a passion of mine as well as Whitney's. So you get two very dedicated coaches and creative personalities. What's interesting about Whitney and I is we were Taurus and Scorpio. So we're actually opposites, astrologically speaking. So we complement each other. And even though we're both pretty grounded people, we're both generators in human design, we're also very different in certain ways. So we feel like where my strengths might lie, you know, I don't like the word weaknesses, but you know what I'm trying to say. So we complement each other. So where one person might struggle a little bit, the other one can kind of bring us up to speed. And Whitney is very talented at seeing the light in the darkness. She's been able to do that several times for me. And, you know, where there's a situation where it's very, especially on this journey, where it's very easy to get stuck in ascension blues or stuck in the negativity or stuck in your current situation and feel like this is going to be forever. She has a way of putting it into just beautiful story and lifting you up so that you like look, so you can see that this is what's actually happening and why it's happening. And it's from a very grounded perspective, which is always appreciated when you're on a spiritual journey that you feel like you can't get off of, which we really can't. And with the current revelations that I've been having, that I've been sharing on the channel, that you guys have, for the most part, really embraced and have been really amazing and allowing me to be vulnerable and sharing my new truth, which is part of my eclipse experience. What's really interesting about Whitney is she actually, her thought on the twin flames is basically that they don't exist. So and, you know, had you asked me a year ago if this is what I'd be talking about, or this is what I would believe in, absolutely not. Had you asked me 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago, absolutely not. But the place that I've arrived is such a solid place within myself. And it's so nice to step back from this whole, you know, this journey that we get absorbed in, this the label of twin flame and the storyline and the runner chaser dynamic and the pain and how we're supposed to just accept what's happening. And, you know, Whitney and I were talking, I think it was last week, and she's like, but, you know, it's a way for people to not have to do the work. It's a way, basically, well, they're running, they're doing this, and it's their fault. And we're not, it's a distraction from our own work and what we actually could be doing to help ourselves. And that really hit home with me. And I realized how easy it is when you have a label and you feel very safe and secure within that label and within that community. Well, they're coming back, so it's all worth it. And then it's several months or years or decades and they haven't come back. And then you go, okay, so my life was on hold, whether physically or energetically. And now I'm in this space where what am I going to do? And so we want to empower you to choose your own truth. And kind of what this eclipse is doing is kind of allowing us to not throw away, but kind of cleanse and clear out the rubble of what we believed in so that we can create a new story, a new chapter that doesn't have to look anything like the past. And I think, I know a big one for me, Whitney, and I don't know if this is coming up for you too, is because this is hitting in your sign. This is your eclipse, and the last one was my eclipse. So it's hitting, you know, pretty hard, but it's that I don't have to learn through suffering and pain, that I can actually learn through joy and growth and expansion. And this is like a novel concept to me on this journey, because the twin flame journey is suffering and pain and heartache and separation and loss. And I just choose not to learn or grow in that way anymore. So I'm curious if you're having any of those experiences too in your own way.
So for me, mine has been around worth and value, and recognizing patterns of behavior, because as a Taurus, I'm so much a creature of habit, and I like to stay in my little safe place. Like if I were an animal, sometimes it's like I would be a turtle where I could just climb inside and hide in my little safe space. Some life events have occurred in the last year that have disallowed that for me. And I had to go, okay, like once I can see, but twice, like obviously the common denominator is me. So it's forced me to kind of go, all right, where am I showing up and where am I not showing up? And where am I tolerating things that I don't need to tolerate? And who's responsible for me tolerating those, which is me. And so it comes down to accountability. And there's so many similarities between that and the twin flame thing, because whether there are twin flames or aren't twin flames is almost irrelevant, because basically we all are responsible for ourselves. We have to do our own work, and saying I can't do this because somebody else didn't do their part is a cop-out. There may be certain things we can't do because of someone else's lack of participation, but that doesn't mean that we get a free pass to sit back and watch life go by. Yeah. That's my take on it. So for me, the worth and value has been in career. And so I have focused far more on my energetic work, because that's where I know I actually provide value that is seen, heard, felt, that actually shifts things for people, which is, I want to put my time and energy where it actually makes a difference, because that's what fills me back up. And I have watched enough of other people's lives to know I don't have the time in this lifetime to experience all of the things that I would need to experience if I were going to grow through pain and suffering. So I have to take other people's experiences and see how they give me wisdom, how they provide me with new information or shift my own truth. Because otherwise I'm not going to get very far on this plane in this go round. Just not going to happen. There's too many life experiences, too much to learn, too many ways to learn it. So yes, absolutely. We can learn through like being joyful. We can actually just download knowledge without experiencing anything.
Yeah.
But
What a
that
novel
requires an
concept.
internal shift. It requires listening to this instead of everything else out there, which is hard because we are taught from an early age that authority lies outside of ourselves. And I believe very strongly that the only final authority lies within. The only true truth for anybody has to be discovered within. And the thing that makes that so hard is that there's not a map. There's not a how-to guide. There's not, because everybody's unique. So your path to wherever you want to go is going to be just as unique as you are. And you're the only one who's got the ability to find the freaking map. And I think that twin flames tell us that everything's out here instead of in here. And it allows us the freedom of saying, oh, okay, well, then I just won't listen to what's in here. I won't make the effort because this is what is true, is this thing over here. And, you know, it's a way to bypass responsibility for your own stuff.
It's so interesting listening to you talk about it because I can feel myself getting a little triggered, even though I have shifted so much. And I think there's always more work to do. As long as we're in this human body and on this human plane, there's going to be growth and work and discomfort. So clearly, you know, this is not a decision that one would make overnight, especially if you have been, you know, on the journey for X amount of time. And it takes time. I've been unraveling this for 6 months. I've been sitting with this. I've been, you know, you can't read about it because everything you read out there, you know, like in the external world is all, it's the romance, it's the fairy tale, it's they're coming back. Oh, they're just running, they'll be back. And I realized how freaking unhealthy this is to be chasing this ideal or this concept or this person who actually doesn't want to be chased. The majority of the so-called twin flames are in other relationships. They're married, or they're living with someone, or they're saying, I don't want to be with you. And in the name of the twin flame, we go, oh, but they actually do. And so we speak for them but they're showing us and they're telling us, I actually don't want to be with you. This is not, because if they wanted to be here, they would be here. So I think there's such a, God, there's so much, like I could say, my brain is filling up. There's so much misinformation out there. And I think it's very dangerous. I'm at the point in my journey, even though I'm still feeling slightly triggered, I think that's good. I want to be triggered. I want to get all those pieces out. So thank you, Eclipse, and thank you, Whitney, for, you know, speaking your truth so eloquently and so clearly. And I think that's really what is being called for right now is I'm one of the very few readers who is out there actually saying, hey, there's some bullshit here in the mix, and we've been fed some lies, and there's been deception and distortion. And I no longer am on that train. I cannot continue to ride that train off into the sunset because the train's breaking down at every turn because it's not well oiled. And the person who's supposed to be on the train with you is over there and in another carriage with someone else. And it's not even a moral argument. It's not, you know, your twin flames, it's not even the morality. It's just, how does that really make you feel? How does it make you feel? And then the question is, why is there the pursuit of someone who's not available? That's a deeper question to me. We call it, oh, that's my twin flame, so it's okay that I'm chasing them and they're not available physically or emotionally or both. But what's the real reason here? What's the real issue? Is it because it's safe? Because they're actually not available? So it's all of these revelations, and I'm not the only one. I've read the comments, guys. I know a lot of you are feeling this way, and I'm here to be a rebel. I'm a rebel spirit. I'm divine truth. My soul is divine truth. I'm going to bring the truth out. I am going to assist people that are ready or that are on the same path. And by the way, it's okay if you're not. That's also accepted. What I'm not going to tolerate is somebody trying to challenge my truth, because this is my truth. It's not up for challenge. But if someone else has their truth, that's okay to share that on the channel. It's okay to, hey, this is my truth. This is what I've been experiencing. Because for you, that's your truth. For me, this is my truth. And this is something, again, that you don't come to overnight. But the conclusion is, when you're in a separation, what they call a separation from the twin flame, that runs years, you have to question not only your sanity, but you have to question, why am I still here? Why am I still ascribing to this label? And there's nothing to show for it in the physical. There's growth. I mean, what I will say about meeting this individual is it definitely set me on a path. But then I question, couldn't I have gone on a similar path had I met somebody else? I think so. I don't think, we don't just have one soulmate. We have many soulmates, and friends and family members and coworkers and all sorts of soulmates, romantic soulmates. So my view is that don't put the twin flame above a soulmate, because the soulmate could be the one that's going to be able to be that partner and give you everything you've ever wanted. But if you're too busy over here, stuck on the twin flame, that person doesn't have the space to come in, because your energy is over here. Even if you're physically separate, your energy is with that person. So I think a lot of people that think they've moved on from the twin flame label actually haven't, because energetically you're still in it, if that makes sense.
So the thing that I want to note that just keeps coming up for me is that you keep talking about your truth. Truth is such a subjective thing, and truth is also not static. So your truth is going to differ from everybody else's, because you're looking through your lens of life experience. You're looking through your internal navigation system that's going to be different than anybody else's. But also, as you gain experience, as you go through life, you change. So your truth changes. So yes. Of course, you wouldn't have thought, a year ago that there would be a time when the twin flame thing was not really, something held right here. However, you change, you shift, you grow, you're supposed to. And as you do so, your truth changes. That's the way it's supposed to go. This is an ever-flowing thing. And when we try to stifle that and say, oh no, this is what I believe, and this is what I was told I have to believe, and this is what I've always believed, and I'm not going to change what I believe, then you greatly limit everything. I want people to come up and say, this is what I now believe. And I want it to be different than what they believed 5 years ago, because I want there to have been growth. I want there to have been change. I want them to have actually lived life in a way that shows them that they didn't maybe see the complete picture. There's more than we knew. So yes, your truth is going to change. And again, it could be that twin flames are completely legit a thing. I don't know.
Sure, could be.
But for so many people, I think they serve as a portal, an opening. And I don't think people are they're not really utilizing the opportunity they're given.
Agreed. Because there's so much focus on the physical person. And what really did it for me is, if you look at readers who are talking about twin flames from 5 years ago, they're saying the same thing that they were 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 8 years ago. And that's what made me go, wait a second, I can't be authentic if I'm repeating the same message, which I found myself doing year after year after year. It wasn't resonating. It was sinking me. I would do a reading and I'd be sinking, into that vibration, because it wasn't my truth anymore, and it wasn't resonating. It wasn't me being authentic. So me being authentic, Whitney and I talked about this, she's like, do you think you're ready to share this? it's been scary. Not right now, but leading up to this point, the vulnerability of saying, hey, I no longer identify with the way that I've been identifying. And, you know, this channel, the way that I have created my career, everything that's, you know, everything is based on this. Hey, guess what, guys? I'm going to be over here now. That was not an easy thing to do. It hasn't been the easiest thing to realize that I have to say this out loud and I have to share this. But also my hope is that it inspires other people to be more authentic in some way in their life, to speak your truth, to be vulnerable. And don't worry so much about how it's received, because what truly matters is you speaking your truth, and that will attract your soul tribe. That will attract your soul clients. That will attract your soul friends. And that will attract your abundance and your joy. Because when we're living in our truth and living in alignment, it's a life of more ease, you know? And so I was trying to fit basically a square peg into a round hole. I was like, no, this is working, and I'm going to just, make the puzzle fit. And it wasn't fitting. And again, it's been really since May of this year that I really started to think deeply about this. And, there's also, I think for women, there's, your 40s are such a time of growth and expansion. Every decade serves a very unique purpose. And for me, the 40s have been just like, from the very night that I turned 40, it was like, it's on. And, you start to give less and less fucks. And then you're just like, I have none. I have no more to give. And I'm just going to live my truth and speak my truth. And I've seen it with friends that are a few years ahead of me said, oh, you reach 40, it's going to be great. I'm like, okay, no, it is great. Because even though your body's changing, and even though, we get wrinkles and we might, we gain a little weight or we shift. And even though all these things are happening, you're like, God, I feel better than ever because I'm more me than ever before. So you guys are getting a really authentic version of me. Had I not met this individual, I wouldn't be here sitting in front of you. So I do have gratitude for this experience, but I no longer choose to identify. So even if he were to return, let's say, and we end up together, I doubt that I would refer to him as my twin flame. I would refer to him as my partner, or husband or what have you, but I don't think I would use that term again. So we can outgrow labels, guys. You're allowed to outgrow your labels. You're allowed to outgrow parts of yourself. And this eclipse in Taurus, right? In the most grounded sign, the most earthy sign is telling us, hey, look, your physical environment, that's Taurus, the five senses, it's changing and shifting. You're changing and shifting. Everyone will feel this a little differently, really depending on where it hits in your chart and which house it's sitting in. Some of you, it's sitting in your first house of identity. That's a big one. Other people, it's career. Other people, it's money. Other people, it's how the world, the face you show to the world. Other people, it's partnerships or children. So it will affect you differently, but this eclipse is eclipsing things out. And this is like, you can't go back. So we're not going to be able, and that's what's scary to the ego. We're not going to be able to go back to where we were or who we were. This is a door closing permanently and a new door opening. And that's why it feels so intense. So for me, clearly, it's out in the open. My door closing is the twin flame label. My new door is kind of remaining to be seen. You guys are on this journey with me. And that's exciting because I know there are other people. I always say, like Whitney, I always say on the channel, like, we're in rowboats and we're in this together. And I'm over here. I might be here one day. I might be here one day or here. And it's not that anyone's ahead or behind. We're just at different places depending on where we need to be that day in different positions. But we're all rowing towards, we all want joy. We all want wholeness. We're all wanting the same thing. We all want to be loved and give love. And I think we've really got to return back to those more simple desires.
So joy is a birthright. Like value, worth, joy, these are things that just exist because we exist. And there's so much about how society trains us to be certain things or think certain things or or pin our value and worth on external stuff instead of it being this just innate thing that exists simply because our souls showed up. And we complicate it. We complicate it so much that sometimes it's like, I don't know how to make it simple again. I don't know how to make it easy. Particularly if you look at your life and you're like, nowhere is anything working well. Every facet of my life is fucked. Okay, so then it's like, I don't even know where to start. The good news is I've been there. So I at least have lots of ideas on first steps, because some work, some don't. But this is a time where, like you said, depending on which house this hits you, for me, it's hitting in my 10th house. So it's all about the career, totally about, my career, which is apropos based on what's happened for me the last 6 months. But it's going to be different for everyone. And depending on how much balance or groundedness you have in your life is going to kind of factor into how crazy you feel right now. Because if you've got like 1 or 2 areas where things are smooth, then this may not feel quite as chaotic. But if you're like, things are only so over here and work sucks and my marriage is kind of rocky, or, my romantic relationships are non-existent, whatever it is, you may be like, holy God.
That's me. That's me. Like, hello, what's that? What's a relationship? What?
Right. So it's the thing that happens when you do all of the other stuff and then make space for it.
Yes.
Make the space. And I think that a big piece of the twin flame part is what you said. Is it safer to be in something where there's no availability?
Yep.
And after my divorce, I had flirtations with people that were thousands of miles away, because that meant I didn't have to do anything other than, send a message. I didn't have to show up. I didn't have to be.
You didn't have to do the work.
Right. And it was much easier because there was no availability. That was necessary for me because I had a lot of work to do. But it wasn't until I did that work that I was ready to talk to somebody who was in the same zip code. So, when you step back and look at the bigger picture, it's like, oh, and I do this because of this, and I do this because of this. And
but that requires honesty.
Yeah, well, that's where writing is so beneficial, because if we hadn't done the writing journey,
agreed.
There was so much self-honesty there, and it was not easy, and it was not pretty. But again,
but we all showed up for each other,
we did, and we showed up like full.
Yeah.
All of the ugly we showed, which is a beautiful thing when you're dealing with people that don't know you in your day-to-day life, because they have no expectation of you. That was what was so beautiful for me.
The only expectation we had was that it was like, we were excited to read each other's, we were excited to share stories. We were all holding space for each other to move through. And most of us were moving through some sort of major transition. Most of us, it was heartache. I recall. So for those of you, you can see how passionate Whitney and I get about writing, because it's been so life-changing for both of us. Whitney's a very gifted writer. So I was so excited when we, started the talks about this program, because I love writing as well. And I've always wanted to incorporate that into what I do, but haven't really figured out how, or it wasn't the right time, but it feels like it's the right time. And there's a reason we're launching the program in 2023. The energies are going to shift. We looked at the astrology, first of all. The energies are going to shift. Mars will be out of retrograde. Mercury will be out of retrograde. And by March, like a month into the program, energies should really lighten up, and we'll have that that astrological new year, the true new year. So there's a reason for it. And I think many of you out there, I know many of you, some of you know, I'm going to talk about this for a minute, that my first channel that I had was based on narcissistic abuse. And I had that channel for 2 years. I've had this channel for 3. And so many of you have shared those stories about, thinking, oh, that person was my twin soul, or I went through that in the past, before I met my current partner. So I think that's an important component too, is that Whitney and I have both had those experiences. We've both been there. So we know what a toxic relationship looks like. We know what a healthy relationship looks like. And we know how to help people step out of that place and out of that space and into something healthier for themselves. Because truly, I know that I couldn't have done it alone. And writing was so instrumental in my healing process, and I think in our entire group's healing process, to really, because it shows you, if you're really honest with yourself with a writing process, it shows you really what you're feeling and what you're going through and where your fears are.
Yeah, so like I learned things about myself through writing that I don't know that I could have accessed otherwise. And I was like, oh, holy shit. So that's what that is. And it was phenomenal. It's been a tremendous healing tool, and a processing tool for me, because we don't want to give all of our stuff to our friends all the time. Like sometimes we just want to work through, just figure out what it is we feel.
Or even to a therapist. Sometimes
Yes.
we're tired of saying the same thing over and over and reliving it, re-experiencing it. So there's something magical about the brain connecting to the piece of paper. There's something, I mean, they've done not many, like smaller studies, but they've done studies about mindful writing or stream of consciousness writing. And it's not the same when you pick up your phone and you're making a note. That's not the same experience for the brain. There's a healing that actually occurs when we do it the old fashioned way. So when you actually, we'll be asking people to grab journals and make this an experience for yourself. We're going to be writing every day, in the program. That's how I see it anyway, is because for us, I know during that program, that was the first thing I would do. I couldn't wait to get out of bed and see what the assignment was for that day, because before I even ate, before I did anything, I just got in front of my computer and I started writing for about 2 hours. And then that would start my day. And when you have that discipline, when you have that structure, which is what we'll provide in the program, along with many other tools, this is just one of the tools, you start to, you get excited, but you also feel really good about yourself because you're completing something. And I know many of you are like, I don't know, I can't focus on one thing. And when you're in that state of stress, you can't focus, right? This gets you to focus, and it gets you to sit down, like sit your ass down and write and get to know yourself. And it's easier than meditation for a lot of people, because with meditation, most people have trouble closing their eyes and trying to access that center, that place of peace, because everything's so crazy out there. So for a lot of people, this is sort of a form of meditation that's a lot more accessible, especially for people that are challenged by sitting still.
So it's funny because my experience with writing was so different, because I was working and I would get up and I would read the assignment, and then I would go through my day and I would let it percolate, and I would be like, and maybe this and maybe this. And so by the time I got like home, put the kids to bed and sat down with some quiet, I had an entire day's worth of musings that I like threw on the paper. Now, not to say, sometimes at work I did go, oh yes, and then I'd write something. But most of the time it was just this kind of, back burner. And it was just really interesting because it shifted the way I looked at my whole world. It shifted my perspective on things. It reframed so much. I got excited. When you tap into creativity, when you actively, because we create all the time, right? We're creative beings. That's what we do. But we don't think of what we do as creation.
Very true.
But because I have plenty of people that say, well, I'm not creative. And I'm like, do you do your job? Do you plan dinners? Do you fix them? Do you like all of these things are creative activities, right? But when you do something that is artistically creative, that uses that portion of your brain, it actually sparks creativity in other areas. So it acts as kindling, and things just, it's kind of a domino effect, and you find yourself being more creative in other areas. So that was really fun for me, because all of a sudden I was at a place where I was just kind of like going through the motions. So I actually got excited about life again. I got excited.
Isn't it amazing how, because I did, so even though we were writing at different times in the day, I had the same experience with when you turn on that creative expression gene, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, it affects other parts of your life. You find yourself more excited, more engulfed, more aware. I don't know, it's kind of hard to put into words. It was more like a feeling, but I do recall during that time when I was writing, every day like that, being in that program, but also having the support. It wasn't just the writing, it was having people to report back to and share, and no risk at all of anyone being negative. There was only support, and people would say, oh, do you want constructive criticism? Yeah, like give it to me. But there was always support there. It was always the undertone of love. So I think, with the group setting, we talked about this too. That's what's so important, is you're not doing this alone. And it's even different than one-on-one coaching, because the support of the group and different personalities from different backgrounds and different age groups and different cultures and everything, just different life experiences. You bring that all in, and then you add in the writing component and the sharing component, and you're like, it's just this beautiful, colorful masterpiece. So for me, that's what was really the biggest part was, wow, first of all, there's other people going through similar things.
Yes.
I'm not the only one. So you don't feel alone anymore, but you have a place to share. And we all stayed connected for a while after the group ended. And some of us are still connected. So I think that says something for sure.
Well, and I think like it took me a long time to figure out what was so beautiful about the group. And part of it was that nobody knew me, so nobody cared. Nobody was like, oh, that's not very Whitney, like, no, I could just be whatever Whitney I wanted. And the other part was at the time I was still married, but there's so much in an unhealthy relationship, there's so much invalidation that for me, I kind of didn't know, I didn't trust my own internal compass anymore. And within this group, there was so much validation of my feelings. Not saying that anything I said or did was right or wrong, but just that they validated my feelings. Yeah. And that was the first time in years. And that was so pivotal for me. And you can't do that in a one-on-one. You can get some validation, but to get massive validation just of, what you felt or
just being who you are.
Yeah, what you are, like, yeah. So that was really, really huge for me. And it was a start of my reaching for something healthier for myself, for my kids, just in general.
Yeah, there was quite a few people in the group who were also moving out of unhealthy relationships. And so it's interesting, that was, what, can I do the math? Was that 7 years ago? I think 7, 8 years ago. And now here we are, about to open up a group, and there's going to be people in that very same situation, who are coming out of this twin flame community or dynamic, or just the belief, they're changing their belief, or they're like, I still believe in it, but I want a healthy relationship. Like, I'll keep them over there in that box, but I'm seeking a healthy relationship. But it's not just that, there's going to be people who say, I don't even want a romantic relationship. I want a career. I want a career that matters, or I want to find my purpose, or I just want to experience joy again.
Or I've forgotten who I am and I need to rediscover or recreate myself.
Or maybe I never knew who I was. So it's like, if you really ask yourself, who am I? Most people answer that question with labels. Oh, well, I'm a mom, I'm a sister, I'm an aunt, I'm a teacher, I'm a Republican, I'm a Democrat, so it's like you're answering with labels. And it's like, even the name is a label, even the age is a label. So it's like, but underneath that, and I would ask, when I worked at a cancer clinic for 3 years, I would lead these mindfulness workshops, and I would ask them, and we would do mindful writing, and they would just go, what? I don't know, because I've never actually thought about it. And by the way, for anyone out there going, oh, writing, that's not for me, I'm not a writer. There is one patient in particular, and she was so funny. She goes, actually, two of them. There was a gentleman and a woman. They both were like, I'm just here just, because for something to do, take my mind off of what I'm going through. But I'm not a writer. The hell they weren't. They were the ones that.
Oh, I lost your sound. Mm-mm. All of a sudden you went silent. No, you might be up. There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
I think it's my Wi-Fi here. I think there's some storms out in the distance. So I don't know what you guys got, but the gist of it was the two individuals who said, I'm not a writer, this is not for me, ended up getting the most out of it every single time.
Yeah, you don't have to identify as a writer to actually sit down and put words to paper and create new insights for yourself. And it doesn't have to be some literary masterpiece either. Some of the most cathartic things I ever wrote were things I would not want anyone to read. Or some of the ones that I did share with a select group was like, hey, I know that from a pure literary perspective, this is crap. However, this was massive for me and I want to share. And I feedback that was like, yeah, not your best work, but holy shit at the insights you got out of this. So that too is validating, because we don't have to be fantastic all the time.
We don't?
No. You know what? Sometimes just showing up is all that's required.
Yeah. That's a big one. I know that's a big one for a lot of the viewers and a lot of, my clients. It's like I had a client last week, and a new client, and very successful in career. And she's like, but the love piece is missing. And she's so funny. She said, and I feel like I should be doing something. And this, by the way, all my clients right now, I feel like I should be doing something, but I feel like I'm in a lull and it feels empty. And I'm frustrated. And I'm like, well, first of all, that's very normal right now. We're in eclipse season. Mars went retrograde in Gemini, right? The sign of communication, chatter, talking, speech. So we feel like we should be doing something, but that's also the brainwashing of society. We should be doing something. You're not great if you're not doing something, if you're not, moving towards a goal, if your hair's not done, if your makeup's not on, if you're not a certain weight, if you're not this, if you're not that, if your lawn isn't trimmed. It's like we identify our worthiness based on so many things that have nothing to do with worth. So we'll be talking a lot in the program, and we're going to be doing these calls regularly. So there will be live as soon as I can figure, maybe someone can help me with that. As soon as we can figure out how to get these actually live from Zoom onto YouTube, hopefully by next week or even later this week, we will be doing these Q&As. So even if you're like, hey, the program's not for me right now, but we want this engagement. We want to answer questions. We want curiosity. We both really thrive off of that. And this is something I've been wanting to do for a long time. But for me, I really enjoy bouncing ideas off of somebody. I work really well that way. And Whitney does too. So it's always good because she'll have a thought and then I can expand on that thought, or vice versa.
Or you'll say something and it sparks something else that we end up with a much richer content simply because we've collaborated. We've
Yeah.
created this space where we kind of work off one another, which
Yeah.
is what happens within a group, but it also happens, easily in a live once we figure it out.
Once we spent 17 minutes trying to figure it out and then just said, let's just pre-record. Actually, Whitney said, let's just record it. I said, oh, we can do that? Yeah. So we're recording it. We will answer the questions. But one of the major things that I wanted to bring up, because I thought this was such an eloquent way to describe what we'll be doing with the program, is Whitney said, we're going to be peeling back the layers of basically helping you peel back the layers of what you're not, so that you can discover what you are. It's less about having to do and more about releasing. And that's what's really challenging right now. Yeah, the undoing, because the ego goes, but you should be doing, you should be actively pursuing something. You shouldn't just be sitting here. And then we feel guilty for rest. We feel guilty for taking a bath. We feel guilty for not working that day. Guilt, 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 and shame, shame, shame. But it's during those moments that we can actually sit with ourselves and take a step back, where we actually discover ourselves. That's where you find your truth. That's where you find your center. The more distractions we have here and here, we're in there. We're just covered up with all this other stuff, other people's opinions, society's expectations, belief systems, etc. So we're going to help you peel back and undo everything that is basically weighing you down and making you feel like you can't find your purpose or you don't know who you are. And some of you during the course of the program will discover, hey, I actually don't want to be married to this person anymore, or I actually don't want to live here anymore. I actually don't want to be doing this job anymore. Some of you are going to completely change your lives. And for others, it might be smaller changes, but equally as important to you. And
some of that is that the distance between where you are and where joy is may be much smaller than you think.
I think that's really important for people to hear, because I know there's a lot of people struggling with that right now.
But also as a Taurus, my family has always teased me about being, selfish. And I'm like, it's healthy selfishness. It's like, I'm not feeling guilty for the bath that I'm going to go take, or I don't feel guilty about sitting on the deck and watching the birds for an hour while I'm in the middle of being a single parent going through a divorce. Like, so there are things that, and now all of a sudden, who I've been for the entirety of my life is like popular. This is the newest fad is to do all the self-care and all of these things that I've been doing for years. But I am great at reminding people that it's really necessary to slow down, and that fall is my favorite season because things do slow. Things we get to sit in the dark, and we have opportunity to get quiet. And there's so much that happens in the silence, and it's where beautiful things happen. It's hard stuff. It's not always, comfortable. Just like fall is not necessarily comfortable, but it's like all of this magic occurs. And that's what happens when we get quiet, when we embrace whatever the fuck it is that we're dealing with. And there's so much that comes out of that. If you're willing to slow down, get silent, sit with your soul, and let go of all the things that aren't you.
And I think that's why they broke my TV then. So I just had a little 32-inch TV, and I shared with Whitney before the call. It's a long story. I didn't have a TV stand. I was, had it up like a bachelor would, and had it up on plastic bins. I was like, well, I'm not going to be here that long. So anyway, I tripped over the cord and it broke. So that was one distraction taken away so that I could have more time to sit with myself. And because it's not very fun to sit and try to watch a TV, or movie on your laptop. So it's just interesting. I didn't even get mad. In the past, I might have gotten mad. I just laughed. I tried to turn it back on and it was all, zigzag lines. And I just laughed because I said, well, I knew that was going to happen because of the setup. I knew it would eventually happen, and it happened when it was supposed to happen, right before the eclipse.
Mhm.
So you might notice in your life things that are happening that are uncomfortable. But you're right, fall is, so many people love fall. That's what's so fascinating. So many people love the season of fall, including myself. I'm a fall baby, but it is uncomfortable because it's a season of darkness in astrology. If you look at ancient Hellenistic astrology, it's when everything goes dark, like you said. But through that, we find the magic. We slow down. We go within. We are forced to do it whether we want to or like to or not. And that's when we can truly discover what we like, what we don't like, what turns us on, what our desires are, what our needs are. And that's an important one. What are your needs?
Mhm.
And, you know, I would ask anybody watching, do you even know what your needs are? Can you even identify with what your needs are? Beyond, you know, the need for food and survival and all that. But what are your needs beyond that? What do you need in a relationship? What do you need in a friendship? What do you need from a career?
And those are all going to be different because
Mhm.
what people value, and this is what I've discovered, is that people don't know what they value. They don't know what their own values are. And your values with work, your values with a romantic relationship, with a friendship, those are all going to be different as well. And that's something that I'd like us to go over, because it was really interesting to me personally to see the difference in my own personal values between work me and like parent me, because they're very different. And I had never actually looked at them and gone, oh, okay, this is what drives this behavior, because I have this value that I've not really verbalized. And it's what makes me do this, this, and this. I say
Yeah.
makes me do, it's what, compels me to behave in certain ways.
Mm.
Um, and so the more you understand those parts and pieces, the more you can say, okay, this doesn't fit. This is why I'm not as happy right here, because it doesn't fit.
It sounds so simple to hear you say it, you know,
Oh,
just
it's so not though.
it's so not. It's definitely not. I mean, because even, you know, myself, I've spent years in the same place, you know, going circles and going, why am I not happy? Why am I not happy? Why am I not happy? And here's the thing, and Whitney and I are both big on this. We don't believe that you should need a healer, somebody to heal you for the rest of your life. We want to empower you to become your own guide, your own coach, your own healer. We want to, so checking in is fine, because I think we all, I think we need that. I'm going to say need, because I do. I think we need to have that. We were talking about this today in my, I go to water aerobics, an aquatics class, which is amazing for me. It's one of my passions and loves. The women there are amazing. The men, just everything about it. It's a beautiful location. So, and I hadn't been in a couple of months, and it just lit me up and charged me up. And one of the ladies, Blair, we were talking this morning, and she's like, you know, it's just so important that, completely lost my train of thought. What was I saying?
So, well, you were talking about water aerobics, but we were talking about values and how simple it sounds. And
Oh, so it was so good, because it was a conversation that we had about, I completely lost my train of thought.
which happened.
Hopefully I'll come back to that. I'll probably come back to it after the call. There's something about value that she said to me that was just so poignant and so divinely timed for me. Everything, it was so funny. Everything she was saying was so divinely timed. I was just nodding and
Your sound went away again. See if you mute it and unmute it again, if it'll work. Sounds like you're back.
I'm going to blame the
There you
instability
are.
on the eclipse.
Totally.
The eclipse energies tonight. So, but finding, you know, for me, moving to a new city 8 months ago and finding what I love to do has been a joy, and has been, it's been a creative process. But I've had to really go out of my comfort zone. I never thought I'd be doing water aerobics, but here I am. And it's what healed my shoulder, and it's what allowed me to make friendships and connections and get out in the beautiful sun. And it's healing. And I think we get away from those simple things. Oh, it's too simple. It can't be that simple, but it can be that simple. But finding your way to that path is the complex part.
Right. And that's where we need guides. That's where we need, and that's what you were talking about is
that's what I was talking about.
Empowering people to.
So having someone to check into, to kind of validate or reassure, but not to where you're reliant on that person for your
new answer person. We don't want to be answered. We don't want to answer all of the questions. We want to teach you how to learn to answer your own questions, how to tap into that part of you that has the answers.
Agreed.
Granted, I don't do it well all the time. I mean, I talk to my father all the time, and I'm like, all right, so I know that I probably should know this. And he's like, oh, you know this stuff, kid. You know this stuff. And so we need reminders, we need guides, we need that, but we don't need someone else to be our inner authority. We want to teach people to be their own inner authority.
I call it the inner GPS. And it's, helps, the inner GPS helps you to figure out, this is my soul, this is my ego, this is the mind, this is the heart. And it's so, again, it's so simple, but it's complex at the same time, because if you don't know your value system, if you don't know what you value or who you value, or you feel like you're lost, you don't know what your purpose is. And I think that's what a lot of people are feeling now. If I'm not a twin flame, what is my purpose? If I'm not going to reunite with this person, then what do I do now? And so people are feeling like they're starting over again, starting from scratch. Okay, well, now I have to reinvent my story, reinvent the way that I define relationships, the way that I define love, the way that I define success. All those things are being redefined. Whenever you have an eclipse, and we also have retrograde, you're redefining, reevaluating. It's all the re's: rewind, reevaluate, redefine, rewrite, rescript, all of those things. So we get the chance, basically the opportunity to go back and do things differently or see things differently. So once we move forward, around the end of January is when things really start to clear out. We're going to be like, we're going to start to really see clearly. I'm telling everyone, just hold tight for the next 2 months here. Get through the holidays. We will be here through the holidays. We recognize the holidays are challenging. Even if you haven't had a loss, which by a certain age, most people have had significant losses. So the holidays are tough. It's one of those things where we're supposed to be happy and grateful, but then you find yourself crying in the corner and you're like, and then you're shamed for it. Well, you should be joyful and happy. And it's like, well, I'm not. And I want it to be okay that I'm not okay. Mm-hmm. And so we will be here to support and help you through that. But we wanted to wait until the new year and the fresh energy came in to begin the program. And also just to give you guys time to get to know Whitney and to also ask us questions about the program, ask us questions about anything. We didn't really pull any cards today. Do you want to do that? Do you want to pull a few cards to kind of close off?
I don't feel compelled to. I think that we should do that when we get this live. Yeah. But you were saying something and it made me think, for people who are in the same place you are, where they're questioning some of their beliefs around the twin flame journey or all of that, there's a certain level of grief that goes along with that, because these belief systems are so foundational. Mm. And when you start to question something that's foundational, there's a grief process. You grieve the certainty that you feel with a belief. You grieve the possibilities that you held on to. So there's a lot of that may be tough, particularly into, the holidays or just into the shorter daylight hours. You're spending so much time in the dark at the same time grieving. So it's kind of a tough one. I would encourage people to just pay attention. They don't have to do anything with what they feel, but just notice what they're feeling.
Without trying to escape it, without trying to, okay, I don't want to feel angry. I don't want to feel sad. And usually that dates back to a parent telling you it wasn't okay to be angry. It wasn't okay to be sad, suck it up, or, anger is evil or toxic. But instead of trying to escape it, lean towards it, step towards it, face it, and just ask it, what are you here to show me? What are you here to teach me? Sometimes you'll get an answer. Sometimes there won't be that clarity. Maybe the clarity comes a few days later, a few months later. But the more we can turn towards those feelings, the faster you'll move through the process.
Mm-hmm.
And then the lesson can be learned, and then you can move forward. The more we resist, and this is coming from somebody who was very good at resisting anger, resisting sadness, resisting vulnerability. And also, if you feel shame around this, like, I can't believe I bought into this concept or whatever, shame around anything right now, the best way to conquer shame is to talk about it, to share it, because shame doesn't like to be shared. Brene Brown talks about that. Shame doesn't want to be shared. So share it. Tell someone, hey, look, I did this thing. I feel really bad. Can we talk about it with no judgment? And find somebody who will listen and not judge.
Well, we are much harsher judges of our own emotions than anybody else could ever be. So that's the other thing, is to not judge what you feel. You feel what you feel. There's no right or wrong in feelings. And logic, I have tried so many times to logic away my emotions, and it doesn't work.
It doesn't fucking work.
It does not. And I've got a Capricorn moon, so I'm super logical, but I'm also really emotional. And so I try to logic away everything, and it doesn't work. So it's when you're like, okay, this is how I feel. And you know what? This is clearly a less evolved aspect of me, because I'm not proud of this one, but it's who I am right now. And that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I've tried to logic away my emotions too. And it works temporarily, or you think it's working rather. Oh, this is great. And you go on with your day and your life. Everything's great. And then you get hit over the head because a situation will trigger you. Someone will say something, somebody will do something, and you'll be triggered, and you'll go, why do I feel this way? That wasn't even that bad. You know what they said? They were kidding, or it was lighthearted, and you took it a certain way. You interpreted it, one way. And then you realize, oh, I'm really not over that because I didn't allow myself to feel that. So allow yourself, if you are in the group that's stepping out or away from the twin flame journey, there is tears. I've cried. I have been angry. I've been pissed. I've been unemotional about it. I mean, I've gone through the whole gamut of emotions. And eventually you come full circle, as with anything, with any loss or grief, and you get to a place where you're more at peace. It's not to say that I'm not going to have another day where I don't feel angry or sad. I could very well still feel that, even a year from now. The feelings are feelings, but it's important not to attach a story to the feelings. Just feel them. And move, move, like, in some way. We're gonna, that's gonna be another component of the program, movement. Move through the feelings, because that has been, for me, in my experience, so important. Otherwise, they're just stagnant. They're just sitting there weighing on you. They're like, hey, I'm still here.
Well, and like when I get really irritated, I tend to clean, or like do laundry or whatever, and it's because it feels good to move, because it allows the emotion to move through me. And by the time I finish doing my angry cleaning or whatever, I've usually burned through the feelings.
I like it. At least your house is clean. Like, you got angry and then your house got clean.
Right.
It's not a bad gig.
So sometimes it's like, maybe I should go pick a fight, because I really could use some cleanup here. But it does help to move, and it does help to get in the water, whether it's a bath, a shower.
Yes.
Like, those are two absolutely fabulous ways to move emotion.
And if you guys, I don't have a tub right now. If you don't have a tub, but you want to do, saltwater bath, my friend Mel told me, he goes, Sarah, buy it and put it in a tub of warm water and soak your feet in it. Mm-hmm. Bingo. So it's cheap, it's easy, and it works. And plus your feet give a nice, soothing little salt bath. but it absorbs through the feet, absorbs into the skin, and you're still getting the effects, even though, you know, it's nicer to be comforted in the actual bath. But if you don't have that, or you don't have water around you where you live, or it's too cold, or whatever the reason, you can still, you know, find a way to get the benefits of the salt bath. And salt is also just so good for cleansing and removing negativity, especially with the holidays, you know, being around family, being around negative people, or the stress of, you know, I don't know, even just the crowds, the stress of being around large masses of people, the energy vampirism, you know, that you experience being in the stores. You know, everyone's stressed out, everyone's angry, or fighting over food or toys or whatever it is. There's going to be that. And by the way, right, we have election day tomorrow. So we have the full moon lunar eclipse in Taurus on election day. So it's the
First
sun.
time ever, right?
I believe so. So it's big. It's big. You know, they're very, very likely that people are going to be enraged. We have Mars in retrograde, bringing up aggression, anger, frustration, hostility, passion. So I'm telling everyone, if you can avoid things tomorrow, just avoid as much as possible, because you know, there's been a lot of astrologers talking about that. It's things are about to shift in the physical world. Taurus is the physical world. So it would be different if it was, you know, in Pisces, or, you know, in a watery sign, or even an air sign. This is in our physical reality. It's kind of like the pentacles, you know, in the tarot deck. This is the pentacles lunar eclipse. So we're feeling this individually, and I've done so many videos on this, guys, so to help and to assist. I've done Patreon posts, because it's just so important to try to understand why this is going on. How we can work with the energies, versus just, oh my God, everything's crazy, I feel crazy, everything's insane, I'm just going to hide under the covers. Is we can't really do that. So we have to, you know, we're here to be the strong ones. We're here to be the ones shining the light through the darkness. And we can't do that if we're not facing ourselves, if we're not stepping into our power. So use this eclipse energy. It's today or tomorrow, depending on where you are in the world, but use this energy to, you know, it's a full moon. So release, let go. Like, imagine a balloon that's come to fruition. You know, it's as full as it's going to be. And then it's releasing, it's letting go. And then there'll be a new moon. And then we move forward from there, you know, another full moon. So the moon moves fast. She moves rapidly. She does, you know, she goes through what, in a 30-day cycle. I mean, she has a different phase every day, essentially. And so this isn't energy necessarily that we have to stay in or be stuck in, but everyone feels really stuck right now. And it's like, okay, so if we feel stuck, what can we do with that? We can move, we can take a salt bath, we can write, we can watch a silly movie, hang out with people who make you laugh, like music, animals, nature. There's so many ways to like deal with the energies that are externally out there, and healthy ways, you know. And if you feel, because I'm noticing addiction energy or addiction mentality is kind of coming back on.
Yes.
I'm noticing it within myself, but also within clients and friends. Be mindful of that right now, because we're going back to our comfort zone of what makes us.
Well, it's a way of checking out. That's what most addiction is. It's our way of checking out.
Yeah.
And so staying present is really hard right now. And a lot of it is the collective. It's not necessarily all ours.
Yeah.
A lot of it is the collective energetics. Which is why things like salt baths or grounding, getting out in nature, just putting your feet on either grass or concrete, you know, whatever.
Yes.
Are super beneficial right now, because it helps you kind of get back in your lane instead of being inundated with everybody else's stuff.
And sage.
Yes, always.
My sage yesterday. It was sage. You don't have to do it every day, but, you know, maybe once, I don't know, once a week, once a month, just, you know, cleanse your space, especially if you do energy work like Whitney and I do. Many of you do. Many of you have channels. Many of you are healers. You want to be cleansing your space right now. cleansing it from the collective, and call your energy back at the end of the day. So
Yes.
it can be as simple as I talk to Archangel Michael. He's my dude. It can be as simple as I call all my energy back from all space and time, period. End of story. Protect your energy, especially if you're going to be out. Again, we're heading into the holidays here very shortly. You're going to be out shopping for Christmas or Hanukkah, or, you're just whatever for, Turkey Day or whatever. It's like, protect that energy, because more people are going to be in a closed, confined space, because everyone's shopping, everyone's just out. I don't know. I've noticed that in my own city. Things have gotten really busy and picked up speed over the past few weeks, and it's intense. And it's also, when you're going through Ascension, it's really hard to drive, by the way. It's very hard to be in a vehicle. I literally will feel like I'm in outer space. I'll catch myself checking out. I'll catch myself like, whoa, where have I been the past 5 minutes or 10 minutes? It's kind of scary. Ground yourself as much as possible. Ask for protection while you're, on the highways, on the roads. And, encase yourself in that protective layer before you go out. Also, I need to take my own advice. But, these are all things, simple things, but we forget to do them. It's very easy to tell someone else you should do this, and I'm realizing I'm not doing it. So, if you guys have questions, we hope that you do, or comments, you can leave them below, and Whitney and I will be on to answer them. We hope to do another session, hopefully a live session by next week. And then we will set up a regular day and time so that you guys can have this to look forward to, and we'll just sit and we'll chat. It'll be a Q&A. We'll pull some cards from time to time. We might even do some mini readings and mix it up a little bit. We'll do some energy updates, and we will create a community here for whoever wants to participate. So
I really appreciate y'all letting me join in, and I'm looking forward to doing more of this. And I'm really excited about everything that Sarah and I are creating.
we're both really excited.
Yeah, super excited. So happy eclipse, happy full moon, drink lots of water, and it's okay to go to bed at 8.
Well, the time changed too. So yes, definitely. All right, guys, we will see you soon. Have a beautiful night. Happy eclipse. Take care.